Welcome back to Football Coach, episode 16. We lost a week ago to Arizona pretty badly. This week we followed up with a much better performance, 24-9 against Utah. Close, but clearly not close enough. We do pick up a few minor injuries, though, certainly not helping our situation, but we do have a couple guys recovering. We did pick up one new recruit after the Hawaii game, an A-, but low current ability. Linebacker. Now we have a cornerback and a running back ready to commit. I do have a number of offers out there right now. Maybe 4 of about 7 or 8 that I have out there where we are very much not first on the list. But I'm trying to compete, trying to see if we can, steal a couple of those. And a couple of those are close to commitment stage. So these could be among those, or these could be where we have the only offer. For this one, it is one of those ones where we were very much behind. I think this was the one we were probably furthest behind on. It was one of those gems. We're losing out to Washington State and Oregon State on this one, the Pac-2. And it is Oregon State that they'll be heading to. We were within 1,000 points. I did try to do the last-ditch NIL to get competitive. Both of them offered NILs as well, so it really just helped us catch up. But we still lack the pulling power that some of these other programs have. But for this running back, it's only a B-, but starting at a 66 overall gives a pretty healthy advantage. He's a good plus 5 to 7 points higher than the average running back that we are able to go after. So even though B- is not the best rating we can find, I've got an offer for a running back that has an A-, but he's like 8 points behind. So the starting further ahead gives this guy a real shot to be in the mix for at least potentially being a starter at one stage, or at least being kind of that number 2 running back for us, because he's going to have this head start. Any chance we had of winning a football game is now done. All 3 opponents we have to wrap up the season are all in the top 15, with a combined just 4 losses between all of them. So those are not really going to be winnable games. However, last season that is how we upset some teams, but just that drop in defensive talent this season, that secondary for us is just too weak right now. It doesn't surprise me that we're going this season back into the winless column. Next season we should be bouncing back, right? We don't have that many seniors this year. We have a lot of better talent coming through the woodwork. It's just going to take us a little while for it to get towards the top. But recruiting has been so much better the last couple of seasons that you could see the light at the end of the tunnel that will get us more competitive. We found a way to be more competitive still with a weaker group. Eventually, we should have a more mediocre group. Might have lost 41-0 to Oregon. Our first time getting skunked this season, but we do have 2 big-time players returning from injury and no new injuries, so that's a big win. We do have an offensive lineman who comes in at a 65 overall, so well ahead of what's normal, plus good potential, and we're the only ones who gave him an offer, so that's a 3rd lineman for this class already. We got 2 games left in the season, and I was getting really worried that both of my promises to 2 different tight ends were going to go unfulfilled, and for the first time we were going to see a massive hit on our coach prestige. But luckily, last week's game against Oregon worked out really well for our number 1 tight end. He needed 20 targets for the season. He was at 17. He's been at 17 for the last couple of weeks. Our tight ends just have very low usage rates in our play calling. And so he was still sitting at 17. He got 3 targets this week. I think he only caught like 1 of them, if any. He was like 11 of 17 or 10 of 17. Anyway, he's got it. So we've got his 20 targets. I had already spent the last couple of weeks, or 1 week anyway, with the other tight end taking over as the primary. I'm going to now put him on every down. We've got to try to get him all the way up towards 30% of snaps. But he went from 17 to 19 in that 1 week, so we might be able to get there. However, look at the detail here. You got a guy who's been number 1 all but 1 week, so 9 out of 10 weeks, and he's only at 33%. I don't think we're going to make it for this one. And unfortunately, this is a 10 coach prestige penalty that we're going to take on this. We're only going to get, even though this is 6. I don't like how you're risking 10 coach prestige and all it's going to give you for succeeding is 2. And the default is only a gain of 3. Like, sometimes it's beyond help. Like, if the guy takes a major injury, for example, how are we supposed to resolve that? Like, there's no way to resolve that. I might need to change my offense to drastically make sure that tight ends are going to be included much more frequently so that he can play like 70% of the snaps for the next couple of games. That would get him the 11% he needs. Fingers crossed. I mean, hopefully. Can't change the playbook off the spread offense during the season, only during preseason. So I definitely think we're in trouble on that one particular tight end, which means we're headed for a +5 -10 scenario. So we're going to probably lose 5 coach integrity this season, making it really difficult to do more than the 3 cuts, meaning getting a full class of 25 might be a challenge this season. And again, that doesn't feel balanced to me, right? Losing 10 points or gaining just 2. I get that they shouldn't be equal, and I get that the penalty should be greater than the gain, not a 5-to-1 ratio. It's really severe. The only chance we really had of a victory would have been Nebraska. We were at home, and they were barely inside the top 25 rankings after losing the previous week. We held them to 21, but we only managed to score 3, so it is another loss. And yeah, 1 game left with USC is guaranteed loss. 2 guys recovering from injury, though, so it's a good week there, and 3 athletes ready to commit. And we've got a battle on this one. I've been ahead on the estimates. We were second on the favorites list overall, though. It was like Nebraska or something that was at the top of the list, but they never offered. It was the 2, 3, 4, and we've been consistently at number 2. So we've got a pretty good chance to sign this B+ potential and decent overall rating now. And yes, we got him, and actually quite comfortably, almost 1,000 points ahead. We won a battle. Something we couldn't say all the way until, was that late season 2 or was that season 3 before we finally won a battle? I think we got 1 in season 2, right? Safety, good overall already and a decent potential. We're the only ones in on him. My first junior college guy, 73 overall and B potential. Like, it was the starting rating being so high, and right now our top quarterback this year is a 73 overall. So I came in late on this guy, and I just offered him last week, but so did UMass, and that's where he's going to be going. They were way ahead of us. We were 2,000 points behind. They just offered at the last second. I offered because nobody had offered. We were able to get him up to 21% in just 1 week. I would think, again, this week we can see that make another good jump, but it's not going to reach 30%. By the way, the booster goals for the year, well, we got 6 turnovers this season. Our defense was just so weak, and that secondary is usually one of the areas where you accumulate the most turnovers. So we're nowhere near the 17 we need to get that one, but we have come so close on the rushing. But I don't see us getting 134 yards in the next game against USC, number 10 in the nation. They did pick up their second loss. They're coming off a loss, but yeah, it's not looking too likely. 45-17 against USC, so yet another loss. 1 more guy ready to sign. It's a D lineman, 62 overall with a B- potential, and this one we were number 2 most of the time. We were always close behind, but we never did end up getting the win. We only brought him up to 22% snaps, so we did come up short. We missed the target. We also missed the running target. Close to that extra million, but couldn't quite get there. Less than 75 yards away, 72 short. We did add some turnovers in that game. Got to 8. 2 recruits ready to sign. Defensive lineman, only a 2-star, but we're the only ones coming in. He's got the B potential and good durability. For the first time, though, in this class, I went ahead and accepted a target that was not a B potential Reason being, he's a 4-star, 67 overall at tight end, which is a lower rating position in the first place. But I offered him like 3 weeks ago. He was ready to commit soon. Nobody had offered. I stepped in. But then last week, somebody else came in. So I don't think we're going to be signing him anyway. Yeah, 5%. In fact, it was just Wisconsin, now Michigan State as well. And that's where he's headed. We were over 4,000 points behind. Top 25 rankings are in. UCF gets the last conference champion. Clemson gets the second conference champion. Your top 4, Oregon. College Station is... No, it's Texas A&M. Texas A&M gets the 3 seed. Oklahoma 2. Penn State is number 1. Penn State looked really good. 86-85 this season. They were definitely amongst the favorites for the year. But besides your 4 with the byes, you have a Georgia-North Carolina matchup. We have a UCF-Ohio State matchup, Florida and Clemson matchup, and a USC-Michigan matchup, plus the remainder of the Bulls. But we do have another recruit ready to sign on, a loyal 3-star B+, but low current ability. Were the other ones who came in, so we are going to get another one of those. So far this year we have 9 commits now, and we're up to just 6 additional offers that are outstanding, and we're only top on 2 of them, but we're likely, for the moment at least, for 5 of those that remain here on the list. And I've been closing the gap slowly but surely on the only kicker that has potential that's interested in us. And for a while anyway, we were the only ones. And then Iowa had come along and been ahead of us by about 1,200. We've closed that to 600 over time. But then Wisconsin has also offered now and put up an additional where they've actually pulled slightly ahead of Iowa. Those two are neck and neck. We are very much the unlikely third party, but we continue on. We've got a small NIL deal, which I think is larger than what either of the others are trying to offer. Yeah, quite a bit above what either of them are offering. So we're in the we want it more, and we might just be able to eke out something, but I'm kind of continually having to just push this a little bit higher, more and more to stay in this battle and have any sort of chance at getting a freshman kicker in for the future of this program. Right now we have a redshirt sophomore who's serving as our kicker, so it's going to be a while before he needs replacing, but it'd be really nice to actually get a freshman in that we can develop over time. But for the moment, all the others look likely, but a lot of them were not first on their list. So over time, if the other offers do come in, we are very likely to get beat to them. One thing I'm doing a little bit differently this season, though, is I'm not going headfirst in on as many down in the dumps 2-star guys with low current ability, but good potential. I'm trying to find ones that have at least a moderate amount of current ability and have that potential, because I'm going to try to play the transfer market a little bit more. I noticed last season in particular, there's a lot of true freshmen that didn't play for the season that realize, hey, I might have potential, but it's going to be senior year before I ever see the field with the depth of players ahead of me. So they go looking for greener pastures. And we picked up a few of those last season. And my, oh my, those have come in ready to play right off the bat as redshirt freshmen and have been fundamental to where and what we can do. So I've been a little bit lower on this side, passing by a lot of guys that I would have signed in past seasons to try our hands a little more, dip a little bit more into those true freshmen with potential kind of guys that are coming in a big step above where these high school recruits that we are able to get our hands on. I might be mistaken here, but I think this is back-to-back years that the UCF quarterback has won the Heisman, and he's done it with only an 83 rating. He's just playing in a much smaller conference yeah, they seem to be going air raid, and he's absolutely dominating the weaker conference that he plays in. 4,500 yards, 36 touchdowns, but 10 interceptions, 25 sacks. Like, he's got some bad numbers, but he's got some just crazy over the top numbers. For comparison, you can see the guy that finished in second, Penn State's quarterback. Obviously a much, much more difficult conference that they play in, but he's almost 1,000 yards behind. He's 11 touchdowns behind, but he too has 9 interceptions and 24 sacks, really messing up the day there. Where Oklahoma's quarterback, I don't know how he's not number 2 I guess it's the number 1 team, number 2 team type scenario, but we're looking at 4,000 yards, much closer on that one. But touchdowns is similar. The interceptions is a lot better, but he too got sacked 24 times, right? They just play against better opposition who are able to make life a little more difficult on them. They're more accurate. They make less mistakes, complete more passes, but just don't get the same sort of yardage because the defenses they play are a lot tougher and tackle better, and where the quarterback might have a lot more quality and is able to do more than this guy and then Balderrama. But the defenses just make a few too many mistakes. Clemson linebacker is Defensive Player of the Year. An LSU quarterback who, they dropped to 7-5 this season with him at the helm, but not bad for a true freshman coming in. Alex O'Neal, and then Coach of the Year went to the Texas A&M coach. B+ tight end ready to sign and with us because nobody else came in. We're into that later part of the postseason. So we had a North Carolina close victory over Georgia, Ohio State beating UCF pretty comfortably, Clemson blowing out Florida, and Michigan blowing out USC. And then into the round of 8, Penn State getting the win over North Carolina, Ohio State with the upset over Oregon, Clemson with the upset over Texas A&M, and then Oklahoma squeezing out a 1-point victory over Michigan. And in the semifinals, it was Ohio State beating Penn State and Oklahoma beating Clemson for the national championship game, being Ohio State versus Oklahoma, 5-2 matchup. Ohio State once again champions this year. So the athletic director opinion can go into the negative and has gone into the negative, making it so much more difficult to do anything. You achieve the goal, you don't gain anything, but you can go more than bottom out. You can go into the negative range. You have to exceed the goals to gain anything at all. This is gonna be a setback for a long time. It's gonna take many years to get over it now, because it doesn't just like, hey, we lost the last 5 points we could lose and sit at 0 until we start winning. Like, now we're gonna just keep on dropping, and of course now that it's gone negative, now he wants us to fire the coaching staff, but we don't have to. We can't ignore that. But we're also right on the edge of dropping down on the fan base too. So we're going to start picking up extra penalties that are harder. And here is that confirmation. Like, we come close. So we don't even get a partially broken. Like, we just, nope, you failed. -10. Oh, but we went hardcore and got this one. +2. It's just, man, the penalties are so much harsher than the benefits for succeeding. Like, you have to be extremely careful, and we've been extremely careful in offering anything, yet we're still going backwards, down to 61%. So our defensive coordinator has picked up a point. Is it time yet to put it into defense? No, I think the training and the recruiting are still going to matter more at this stage, but I think we're going to put the next point into training for him. We've got to start building some quality. We are recruiting better. We are finding players that have potential, that have quality. We've got to just be able to find a way to boost them up. So we are going to put the point into training. Eventually we'll get into defense, but the recruiting and training still matter more. We do get a new skill badge for this one. This could be helpful. With a priority on development, defensive practice focus bonuses are 20% more effective, and then also an extra with an audible. Don't care about that one, but the practice bonus is big. Our offensive coordinator should get a level next season based on what the defensive coordinator got. And, here's your minimum, like 475. So he should hit that next season. We'll put that into training as well. Head coach, though, he's not really going anywhere unless we get the 2 wins. Starting to wonder if we do make a change at head coach while retaining the other 2. Would that help the athletic director opinion? Probably not. But we're not going to see any new levels as things stand anytime soon unless we actually start winning some games. But we do have the offensive practice bonus. I don't want to give that up. But I bet you we could find better. Shoot. Decision to make. Well, one idea was to try to get a more favorable contract with the head coach to at least save a little bit of money. And no, we seem to already be on the bare minimum, $1.3 million, $750K for the support staff. That's not getting us anywhere. We're at a contract that ends 2030 right now, and this is the 2029 season. So there's only 1 year remaining. It would cost us to get rid of him. I think I want to retain the other 2, but I think I'm actually might make the move to replace the head coach. Give us a little something going forward. The obstacles placed in front of us are massive, and one area that we can make a difference is coaching staff. We've done some strong money saving moves, and I like seeing them grow with us. But that head coach isn't going to be growing if we're not getting wins. But I do feel like it is possible to get wins, and then he'll grow more quickly once we do. We did it last season. We're going to rebound. As much as I want to, I'm going to stick to my guns. We're going to stick with Thomas Dye. The biggest shakeup in the coach retirements page, which only has 9 this year, is Nebraska's head coach, 2-time National Coach of the Year, has retired. Our head coach is a 5'1", There was one young 35-year-old Memphis offensive coordinator who was a 5'1", Would have been a slight improvement for us and been able to stay young, but would have been costly at the same time. And I don't know, the spirit of the challenge. Stick with these guys. Yes, of course, there's much better quality out there, but they would be so costly to get our hands on anyway. No players entering the draft, but we do have some graduations, which does include some good players, especially at wide receiver, but we still have one of our 80-plus wide receivers, and a lot of what we're losing, there's going to be some youngsters coming up that I think for the most part there's no reason to fear being worse next year than we were this year. A lot of graduates here in the low 70s. So 12 amongst the better players. But, I mean, one of them didn't even play a game. So really it's only 11. And some of these guys did not play in all the games or did not play for more than a season or so. A couple guys that are going to be missed is a defensive lineman who played in 48 games for us and had 170 tackles. That's going to take some replacing. And definitely, our top 2 receivers have been around for a long time and very much key components of what's happened here with our program. Only 3 of these guys were risks, and I really tried to address all 3 of those, and now all of a sudden that number has grown to 4. An added player after the fact has figured he would like to transfer. For the moment, that brings us down to 72 scholarships remaining beyond the 10 we've already signed, but we'd like to retain some of these 4. And with that coach integrity hit, we've really only got the chance to eliminate 3 scholarships to bring that down. Maybe keep 3, lose 3 will give us another 13 or so players we could potentially sign. Well, because we never got to the 30% snaps, we can't make an additional promise. We broke the promise. He's not only bad and we lose the coach integrity, but he's going to transfer anyway this season. So we are without our top tight end for next year. But we do have a much higher potential guy who is just behind him that hopefully we can convince to stay. Well, I think him wanting playing time is going to make that pretty easy. 30% of snaps, there's the same problem, but he will be number 1 on the depth chart all season long, and we should be able to carry through with that one. But I just hate that the coach integrity, right? It's such a high number value. It's just crazy to try to keep up with that. Is it like that on the other difficulties, or is that something that is bumped up on the legendary difficulty? In which case I would be more inclined to go, okay, that is something I can get on board with. The difficulty level comes with the ultra challenge of, like, if you mess it up, you're screwed, which we were totally screwed this year on getting 1 wrong. I'm not going to take the same risk on this offensive lineman who we redshirted this season. We played him 4 games. He'll be a redshirt junior next year, but he lacks potential. He's only 4th on the depth chart. There's much better potential guys behind him. I'm going to let him go, and we'll look to replace him in other ways. I'm trying to get that offensive line younger anyway. I'm going to let this guy go. The 30% or 60, what was it? 60, yeah, 60% snaps. Probably likely for a starter on the offensive line. Probably. Definitely not guaranteed. And these other guys should shoot up ahead of him. This guy could shoot up ahead of him, but, like, worst case scenario, he's 5th. But I think I can probably find a transfer that would be better. And I do not want to risk it. We're going to let him go. So that's 2 guys that are going to head out, which means we will have 11 scholarships unless we cut anybody. And at this point, there hasn't been anybody to cut. There's the first one I am going to cut, just a C+ on potential after it dropped down from like a higher B. Redshirt freshman, didn't play. We're going to let him go. Linebacker. Well, in the end, I did pick out 3 guys to let go. And now that we have pretty much B potential for everybody, the guys that didn't develop in their first year or 2 are the ones that are now becoming expendable for us, which is a much nicer position to be in. So we have a redshirt freshman, so he's already going into his sophomore year, wide receiver who still hasn't broke into the 70s and has just a B- potential. So we're going to let him go. We have a linebacker who's just a 63 and that potential drops. So we're going to let him go. We have a tight end. I'm going to thin the tight end personnel out a little bit. I did drop it from 3 on the depth chart to 2. The 3rd guy never even had a snap. So lowering the number of tight ends that we need to have. And we had a couple true freshmen. The other one has much better potential and developed better coming in last year as a true freshman. So we're going to let him go. We've got 2 guys that we're getting signed that both have better potential and better overall ratings than what he's got right now. So we'll let him go. And Clay absolutely could have contributed, but we're not going to risk the broken promise. And then Vogel is the one we messed up on this year, so he's gone regardless. But that leaves 14 more that we can sign, and I'm going to absolutely look to the transfer market to pick up a lot of those, and true freshmen for a lot of those. So we got a couple guys with 100+ ratings. Speaking of, for the very first time, or at least that I know of, year 1 maybe, I didn't look too closely at the rosters that year. I know we had that really solid offensive lineman, but we had a receiver with speed that topped a 100 this year. So we had our first attribute reach a 100. This is overall rating based on the key attributes for their position. Average key attributes. So that's a lot of 100+ ratings for this Aiden Brady, whose page looks like this, right? Speed, evasion, both 100+, and his defensive ratings, all but 2 of them are 100+, and pursuits almost 100+. Even his catching is a 90, and that's going to lead to a fair number of interceptions. But he was the number 2 recruit, 5 stars, number 1 safety. Like, no surprise that he is quite good. He was an 85 for a redshirt year. So he redshirted. Oh no, that was his high school year. He was an 85 in high school. A+ potential all the way throughout. Still has A potential as he heads to the pros. But it's another good year for the transfer portal. 670. I think we had about 680 last year. So very, very similar number. 5 new players into the Hall of Fame. And as for our school records, Abel Morgan is going to head out of here as the best receiver that we've ever had. Though senior year, he dropped to number 2 on our list. Woodson had a number of single season records, including pass interceptions. Most we've had, 13 of them this year. 4 rushing touchdowns, though. Morgan, even though he was number 2, still ended up leading the team with 660 receiving yards this season and 65 catches. And a quarterback in the double overtime loss to Hawaii, Woodson set our team record with 2 rushing touchdowns. He's the very first player in 5 years? Very first player in 5 years to score 2 rushing touchdowns in the same game. And it was the quarterback who managed to do it. We did have our best rushing season, even though we came short of that rushing mark that we needed. We had 104 yards per game. The offensive talent was the best rating we had. We had our most sacks this season. The D line was pretty good. They just didn't have much help behind them. The linebacker crew was okay. We had a couple guys really close to signing, but now it's too late. We have to wait till signing day to get any signings done. I'm down to 16 targets. All of them have that B potential or better, and here is what that list looks like. So we've got a linebacker with high potential but low current. We've got that kicker that we did get up into the mix. We are very, very close, but all 3 are right on top of one another. We've overbid on NIL to make it a battle, but then we have others that don't have offers currently. We'll see if we stick around with these guys. They're in that low 60 range. We've got a wide receiver. Yes, it's a 66, but it's a position that generally rates higher anyway, so it's not great. I haven't offered him yet, but he's the only wide receiver target I have. We'll look for something better in the transfer market. True freshmen that are going to have like a mid-70s or something and better potential. And if we can't, then we'll sign him on signing day, as we're the only ones in after him. I've gotten a little bit smarter with that. I've not had to put those offers in. I can sit on those guys that nobody else is targeting and wait till signing day, if I can't find anything better, to then take those guys. So just a little more reasoning behind what I'm doing these days. But we've got a okay running back with pretty good potential that we've been after a long time. Arkansas has gone after him a little bit here and there, but nothing recently, and have never offered. So we've got a pretty good chance of signing him, but we've never been able to overtake them because of the limited effort that they put in is so much better than what we are able to offer the guy. But the rest of these are in that B range. We've got a decent cornerback with a B+, and we have a quarterback. We've been looking to get a true freshman coming in, who is coming in as a gem and has B potential. 65 overall is not great. There's actually one more who's almost identical, which is lower durability. But we'll look to the transfer market and see if we could find a true freshman in the transfer market. So it'll make him 1 year older, but if he can come in significantly better in terms of current overall and potential, then I'd rather take them. But that gets us into this off-season recruiting. I'll be doing all 3 sessions here off camera because signing day is all at once. So I'll put that work in, and that's where we're going to pick up for the next episode. So that's going to do it for this one. I'm Decathlon Gaber. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.